Hello, I am starting a new series today, and this one is about different list builds as I see them. So it's again just my opinion, and it is basically for rookies, explaining how you can have different types of lists, and what those are, and maybe how they work, and what's good about them, and maybe what's not so good about them. Today, I'm going to be talking about a list building type which I call touch all bases. It is the type of list where you have a little bit of everything in the toolbox and you put it all in your list. So you make sure that you have some infantry, preferably more than the 2 required, right? To take objectives, and maybe they should also be able to deal some damage, so you make sure that some of them have some long range capability, maybe an LMG or a bar. You make sure you have some indirect fire. You put a mortar in the list, or maybe a howitzer. You make sure you have a sniper to take out enemy teams. You make sure you have some anti-tank capability, either in the form of AT guns or maybe infantry-borne, team-borne AT capability. Panzerfaust are really good for that. And you put an armored car in, 7+ typically, to go up and harass the flank or whatever it is that needs to do. You put a tank in for like general purpose armor to take on stuff that other units can't really take on. And then you have a list. You have a list where everything is basically covered. Yes, there are some things that maybe you don't put in the list. Multi-rocket launchers, maybe not. And I see this list repeated again and again, mainly by new players. That is the way most of us start out building lists, thinking that maybe we should try and get something of everything and try everything. And for that list type is really good, because you get to try out stuff and you get to figure out what works for you and what doesn't. The problem being that you have to have the minis for it, right? And if you figure out, well, I don't play artillery, I'm really bad at artillery, then you have bought an artillery piece. So there is always that possibility that you might end up having something that you're not going to use. Then sell it. Right. So the good thing, the other thing I want to mention is it's not just rookies who play like this. I know a lot of veteran players who also find that this, a little bit of everything, really fits their playing style. If they maybe are a little bit more of a reactive player, if they want to have options during the game, if they like to have their options open and not be limited to one plan for how to win the game, this list type, that works well for them. So, what's good about it? Well, you have a little bit of everything. Right. You are never going to lack any tools that you might otherwise need. So no matter what type of opponent that you're facing, you'll always have something that works. So that is always good, right? You're never going to be embarrassed for anything. It typically also means that you have enough infantry in your list. Because some lists, if you are running like a very heavy tank or something, you're going to lack infantry. You're going to lack strength in your infantry, the infantry part of your list. You won't do that with this type of list building. Typically, you will have enough. So that is also really good. And if you can figure out how the different elements of your army can work together, so you can do some combined arms, then this can really work. Combined arms in bold action where one part of the army does one thing, the enemy reacts to that, and then a different part of your army goes up and punishes him for reacting in that way. That's really good. So those would be the benefits as I see them. The detriments. Typically, when you have this type of army, you don't have one plan for how to win a game. And that means that you're going to have to come up with a plan on the spot, that you're always going to have to be fresh enough in the head to figure out what it is that you want to do with every single game. And if you're playing in a tournament where you play 3 games or more, then I guarantee you, third game, you're going to be knackered. You're going to be so tired and mentally exhausted as well. So you're not going to be able to be that sharp coming into the second or third game as you want to be. And that means that you're going to make mistakes. And this type of army is maybe not, how to say that? It is forgiving. It is forgiving because you do have a lot of different options, but you don't have the maximum amount in each single option. Let me explain. So you take an I'll touch all bases army list, and you maybe have 4 units of infantry. And that's good, right? But what happens if you lose 3 of them? If the enemy has flamethrowers and they move up and they just flame away at your infantry, or maybe like a Dark-Haired Steward and move up and shoot 1 infantry unit off the table, and you're suddenly left with just 1 infantry unit, your infantry will crumble. So lists that really hoard focus on infantry will beat you in that regard, because they have more infantry. They are better able to resist losing 1 or 2 or 3 units of infantry. You are not. So in a touch all bases list, you'll run out of steam in each individual aspect of the list than if you focus on just a few of them. And typically, if you face an enemy that is really focused on one thing, and that enemy gets to use that one thing, you will get beaten. This will happen again and again. And it's because in that one thing, if they get to do that, they're much better than you. So if you face an enemy that's very assaulty, they will assault you off the table. If you face an enemy that has a lot of armor, they will simply out-armor you and shoot you off the table. If you face an enemy that has a lot of artillery and HE weapons, you will not be able to stand up to that. So that is the detriment of this army build. Is it good? Yes, it's definitely good to start. And if you figure out that that is the way that you like to play, then I say good on you. And there are certain armies where this type of build really works well. Maybe especially in Americans. Americans really can do this because they have a lot of different options. The one thing that maybe they're a bit embarrassed in is their armored cars, where, in my opinion, their armored cars are not very good, but they do have a lot of other different options, and their regular infantry is quite killy for what you can put into it, right, with the bars and stuff. So, yeah, that was it on Touch All Bases. Cheers.